What if I told you that in one corner of the world, a nation declared war not on another country, not on a rebellion, but on a bird? Yes, you heard that right. A bird. And not just any bird, but an unwitting, flightless giant that seemed to be both a menace and a victim at the same time. What was this bizarre conflict all about? How did it even come to be, and how did it end? Stick around because the answer might just leave you questioning everything you know about war, survival, and even human ingenuity. The tale of the Great Emu War begins in 1932 in the vast, rugged expanse of Western Australia. This was a time when Australia was still reeling from the effects of the Great Depression. The government, eager to support veterans returning from World War I, had provided land to many of them for farming. It was hoped that this initiative would help these former soldiers rebuild their lives while simultaneously bolstering Australia's agricultural output. However, farming in Australia was not for the faint of heart. The land was often unforgiving, with its arid soil, unpredictable weather, and natural challenges that seemed endless. As if these struggles weren't enough, the farmers soon found themselves facing an unexpected adversary: emus. These large, flightless birds are native to Australia and can grow up to 6 feet tall, weighing over 100 pounds. Normally, emus roam the countryside without much interaction with humans, but 1932 was no ordinary year. Following their natural migration patterns, tens of thousands of emus began moving toward the newly cultivated farmlands of Western Australia. For the birds, this was a land of opportunity, a bountiful source of food and water amidst the otherwise barren landscape. For the farmers, however, it was a nightmare. The emus were wreaking havoc on their crops, trampling wheat fields, devouring the harvest, and even destroying fences designed to keep other pests at bay. In mere weeks, the damage reached alarming levels, threatening the already fragile livelihoods of these struggling veterans. Desperate for a solution, the farmers turned to the government, demanding immediate intervention. What happened next remains one of the most unusual responses to an agricultural crisis in history. The government decided to deploy military resources to deal with the emu invasion. This was not merely a pest control operation, but a full-fledged military intervention. Armed soldiers, led by Major GPPW Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery, were sent to the affected areas, equipped with heavy artillery, including Lewis machine guns. The goal was clear: eradicate the emu population and restore order to the farmland. The operation officially began in November 1932. The soldiers were confident that their advanced weaponry and tactical expertise would quickly put an end to the emu problem. However, reality turned out to be far more complicated and much more amusing. The emus, it turned out, were not easy targets. These birds were astonishingly fast, capable of running at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. They were also incredibly agile and seemed to move in unpredictable patterns, often scattering into smaller groups that made them nearly impossible to corner. In one of the early skirmishes, the soldiers ambushed a group of approximately 1,000 emus. They opened fire, expecting a swift victory, but managed to kill only a handful before the rest of the birds scattered into the surrounding bush. The emus had effectively outmaneuvered trained soldiers armed with modern weapons. As the days went on, it became increasingly clear that the emus were not only surviving the attacks, but thriving despite them. The soldiers' machine guns, which had been seen as the ultimate solution, proved ineffective against the sheer cunning and resilience of these birds. The emu campaign quickly descended into farce. The soldiers struggled to hit their targets, often wasting entire rounds of ammunition without any significant results. In one infamous incident, a mounted gun was placed on a truck in an attempt to chase the emus at high speed. The plan backfired spectacularly when the uneven terrain made aiming impossible, and the truck eventually broke down. The emus, seemingly unfazed, continued their rampage across the farmland. Major Meredith himself began to recognize the absurdity of the situation. He reportedly remarked that if the emus had been deployed as soldiers during World War I, they would have been nearly impossible to defeat. The soldiers' failure to control the emu population became a source of national embarrassment. Newspapers picked up the story, mocking the government's decision to deploy the military against birds. The public, while sympathetic to the farmers' plight, couldn't help but find humor in the spectacle of trained soldiers being outwitted by nature. After weeks of effort and very little success, the government decided to call off the operation. The military intervention had been a complete failure, and the emus emerged victorious in what would later be remembered as the Great Emu War. The farmers were left to fend for themselves. And while alternative solutions such as bounties and improved fencing were eventually implemented, the emus continued to roam the Australian countryside, largely undisturbed. Over the years, the Great Emu War has taken on a life of its own as a cultural phenomenon. It has been immortalized in books, documentaries, and countless internet memes. People around the world are both amused and perplexed by the idea that a nation once waged war against birds and lost. While it's easy to laugh at the absurdity of the situation, the story also carries deeper lessons about humanity's relationship with nature. For one, it highlights the unintended consequences of human intervention in ecosystems. The emus were not invaders in the traditional sense. They were simply following their natural instincts in a landscape that had been drastically altered by agriculture. Their migration into farmland was a direct result of human activity, and the conflict that ensued was a reminder of how difficult it can be to control nature once it's been disrupted. The story also underscores the importance of humility and adaptability. Despite all their technology and training, the soldiers were no match for the emus. This failure serves as a cautionary tale about the limits of human power and the need for creative, sustainable solutions to complex problems. The farmers and the government may have been outsmarted by a bird, but their struggles reflect the universal challenge of finding balance in a world where human needs often clash with natural forces. Today, the emus are seen as symbols of resilience and tenacity. They didn't set out to wage war. They were simply surviving in an environment that had been reshaped by humans. In a way, their story mirrors that of the farmers who were also trying to make a living in harsh conditions. Both sides were fighting for survival, albeit in very different ways. As you think about this incredible story, consider what it says about our world and our place in it. The Great Emu War may be one of history's most peculiar conflicts, but it's also a testament to the unpredictability of life and the surprising ways in which humans and nature collide. Now, what do you think? Was this a tale of sheer absurdity, a valuable lesson in humility, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this fascinating dive into one of the strangest chapters in history, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and press the bell icon so you won't miss any of our future stories. We've got plenty more bizarre, intriguing, and thought-provoking tales to share with you. Stay tuned.